It's great to be here with you this morning. What I'll try to do in a very short period of time is to kind of share some of ideas we have at GE and that we continue to formulate around the subject of corporate social responsibility. So I would make 5 points this morning to maybe frame my discussion and give you some things to think about. The first one I think is that the economic crisis that we're going in right now doesn't represent a cycle, it represents a reset. And I think people that understand that will prosper in the future, and people that don't understand that will, I think, get left behind. The era of transparency, accountability for corporations, responsibility is profoundly different today versus where it was even 6 months ago. So I think some of you are apprehensive when you came here today or came here this week saying, you know, in an economic downturn, is my function going to get cut because we can't, you know, ascribe what we do to bottom line necessarily? I think when we come out of this fog, you know, this notion that companies need to stand for something and need to be accountable for more than just the money that they earn is going to be profound. Point number 2, people are afraid. People are afraid in Europe, they're afraid in Asia, they're afraid in the United States. People are fundamentally afraid because they don't think they can compete anymore. And so the burden now, I think, in this reset world, if you will, is back on business to turn this fear into confidence by really impacting the competitive structure of the economies that we deal in. And I would say the pillars of competitiveness are energy, healthcare, education, and financial systems that promote innovation. My third point to you is, in that context, corporate social responsibility has to be strategic. If you have this strategic alignment in terms of how you think about what it means to be responsible, then it never becomes superfluous. You don't have to worry that you've become redundant. The number one step in corporate social responsibility is corporate, is long-term dedication to profitability, to competitiveness, and doing those important things. The next pillar to corporate social responsibility is you've got to run the company with trust, which means compliance, governance, and transparency. We spoke earlier about the GE Citizenship Report. It's probably, I don't know, Bob, our 4th year of doing it? 4th year of doing it. I read it every year over a weekend, and I'll pick up the phone and call Bob, our general counsel, and say, we can't publish all this stuff. You know, what are you guys, nuts? I mean, you know, and I get talked down off a ledge every year saying, hey, you got to do it. You know, we published, like, you know, we had 1,900 ombuds complaints, and 1,100 people got fired on the ombuds complaints. And I'm like, you know, do you have to do all this stuff? But I think what we've learned over time that there's no gray area on transparency. You either do it or you don't. The third pillar of corporate social responsibility has to be a long-term dedication to people. So the culture of the company, this long-term dedication to the company, this long-term dedication to people, is something that's very important to build an outstanding corporate social responsibility program. And then I think the last pillar of every successful corporate social responsibility program is to orient the company to solve social problems. $4 billion out of the $6 billion we spend is fundamentally oriented towards 2 what I would consider long-term social problems. One is clean energy, clean water, clean energy on a global basis, and the other one is access to affordable health care. And we have aligned the profit goals of the company and the long-term technology of the company to go after those 2 long-term social problems. The fourth point I'd make is engagement. I think one of the things that I've learned over my career is the importance of engagement with sometimes people that make you uncomfortable. And it's probably the only thing you can do in a reset world is learn how to engage. You can't bring China and India into an economic discussion on the environment unless you try. You know, in other words, unless you try. So this is a place where the world, particularly in Asia, looks to US for leadership. Basically, Europe has achieved leadership, but without the US engaging, if you will, in that discussion in Asia, you're not going to be able to create any tapestry of long-term solutions, particularly on things like the environment. The fifth point I'd make in this group, because I think it's so important, and it's clearly important for GE, and I think it's something that we have to fight for, it's not going to be given to us, is a company our size. You know, we're $185 billion in revenue. We'll be 55% outside the United States this year, probably 60% outside the United States next year. We've got to be allowed to globalize. In the end, you know, I talk about the first 4 points to earn the right to do the fifth point, to be able to compete, to be able to win, to be able to take our company forward in the future and not be pulled backwards. So at the end of the day, we've got to make all your CEOs, everybody in this room, not look at globalization as a bad thing, but look at it as a way that we can help the reset, help give people confidence, be more socially responsible on a global basis, to do more engagement in an ever-increasing global world. And if we can do all those things, then I think we earn the right. I don't think we'll be given the right, but I think we have to earn the right to globalize, to compete, to take our brand, our great company in every corner of the world, and that's worth fighting for.